We are having technical difficulties here, and the question is, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Hello, hello. I have no idea if anybody can hear me or not, so I would need someone to check in and say, yes, we can hear you. If you cannot hear me, please let me know. Johnny Knoxville, I just spoke to him on the phone. Indeed, I was troubleshooting. You can actually hear me? Wow. It's freaking me out because I don't have headphones on. If you can hear me, I will just do this and I'll have it resolved by next week because although Adventures with Crit says, I cannot hear you, but I can read your mind. Kazooie Tricia says, we can hear you in Scotland. Yeah, that's how loud I am. Mark Miller checked in. You want to make sure I was okay. I appreciate that, my friend. It's funny because I do live streams periodically, mainly once on Sundays. And when I don't check in, I get people who are concerned about my well-being, and I appreciate that. When I was on the radio, I didn't show up. Nobody cared except the DJ who had to fill in for me. So Idris Taylor says, good Lord. Ryan Barrett, we can hear you. Where have you been? I didn't know if the sound would work. I generally have these things plugged into my Blue Nessie, which is over there. The Blue Nessie took a dump as a verb is okay, right? Although I guess if it took one, it wouldn't be a verb still. But yeah, Pete Nikolich, the first link died. Yeah, sorry about that. I actually thought I had it set up, and when I went to log in, I had no idea. Oh, Data Bang notices the haircut. Thank you. Thank you. Most people don't. I once did a haircut mid-video because, I thought it would be funny, and nobody noticed. DePaul's checking in, but checking right back out again. But thank you very much. I have to imagine the sound isn't as good, though, right? Am I such an audiophile that people are being like, what? No, this sounds just as good as normal. Scott Summers thought you were frozen. Oh, my gosh. It was -1 degrees this morning when I looked out the window. -1 degrees, plural. I guess so. Zephyr says, hey, Lehto Invictus, we are the cult of the unconquered car lawyer. Retired Butcher Boys checking in from NorCal. As long as you guys can hear me, if somebody says like, hey, I can't hear you, and it gets seconded or thirded, I may have to cut out of here. But Pete Nicole says, you've gone almost skinhead. I tend to go this short and let it grow back in because I don't like to mess with my hair in the morning. I don't own a blow dryer. I literally just comb it, dry it, comb it again, and hit it with spray and leave it there. So Miss Missy's checking from Syracuse, New York, beautiful town. Michael M from Oregon, greetings. Mustang 05 says, hey, kind of an echo. Well, yeah, we've always got one of those. Valerie Ann, where were you? We were worried. Yeah, a drone got me. No, an algorithm ate me. No, I was literally just trying to get this show rolling. So Irving Johnson sounds 86% of normal, 86%. Drewski, that horse has already sailed. Hey, you're barking up the wrong neck of the woods. Lewis Browning says, Wile E. Coyote's in the box. But just so you know, actually, Lewis, Wile E. Coyote's right here. I was going to point this out. I got him in the mail. I picked him up yesterday, Lewis. So we were concerned about his whereabouts, that he was lodged in a post office receptacle, I think in Kalamazoo last week, but I got him yesterday. So there you go. Got Wile E. Coyote. I think he's wearing roller skates, and he's got the Acme rocket on his back there. See how that works? And that sounds like that's a recipe for success, but I guess not. So Art S says we can blame the folding chair. Anthony Imboden, interesting seeing the side of the set. Hello from Toronto, Ontario. Yeah, we do the live streams over there. Zephyr says the other stream while missing had an epic chat going. I didn't realize that it showed up, but I guess it would have, right? Is that how that works? Okay, I guess so. Ryan Barrett, can you hear us? About as much as I normally can. Reiner, man, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, especially if that horse has already sailed. While E. Coyote, of course, is the super genius, the 69 Coronet 500 points out. Captain Walt, good morning from California, where it is in fact still morning, and for a little bit longer it will be. Rich Botch, what is a post office receptacle? Sounds painful. No, receptacle is something you put something else into. A box is a receptacle, right? It receives something. Jason Brindamauer says the conspiracies and why you were late were getting pretty funny. Perhaps the same people who were chasing down Jay Leno were chasing me down. Offensively normal. I thought it was an experiment to see how long we would entertain ourselves. Oh, boy. Hey, Jay Klein, did you buy a new car recently? Can you help me refinance? I need to beat that 2.9%. Oh, Carapuzo says there are some scratchy sounds from your mic occasionally. I'm sure there will be. Theodore Becker, have you seen the new microphone by Chandler Limited? No, I've not. I discovered, and we had a discussion a couple weeks ago about this, about whether or not I can put my Electro Voice RE20. I've actually got an extra one over there, whether I can hook that up to the system here. And we were talking about doing it with a USB cable. And it turns out that that's not how you do it. But somebody did send me a cable, to which I sent them in response a book. But I'm going to look into getting that done to make it work. So there you go. Mark Miller says, hey, I got a great deal on a car warranty. By the way, somebody else mentioned this underneath my video that they started getting letters about their car warranty expiring within months of buying a brand new car. And I was getting them within 2 weeks. I bought a brand new car, and 2 weeks later, I got a thing saying, your warranty may have expired. And if it did, all these costs are going to be on you. It's going to cost you a lot of money. Like, about an extended warranty, you still have like 5 years of warranty left. William R. Buckley, what's the origin of the name Lehto? Lehto is Finnish, from Finland, and it basically means the full name was much longer, but it's a grove of trees. And Johann Lehto, which is what my great grandfather's full last name was, means in essence people from the area where all the trees are. Kind of. I'm butchering it. Silver Mountains is sad to hear Ricky Henderson passed so young. Yeah, Ricky Henderson was a hero, a legend. He perfected base stealing in baseball to the point where if he got on base, he was going to steal at least 2, maybe 3. And it was he set records that will never. He was the base stealing what Wayne Gretzky was the goal scoring, so. Jude Chase says, I have a motorhome for sale. Yeah, a lot of people do. Oh, Jay Klein says, yep, it happened to me. Car 6 months old, 4,500 miles on it, and they're pitching it to you. Lehto Woodsman. I think it's more people who lived in the woody area, people as opposed to living in the plains or living in the big city or something. Anthony and Bowden, I'm impressed you got my last name right. I probably mispronounced it there because that's how things work. Jason Brindamauer, the woodchuck stole Steve's Viper. He's chasing his Mustang with a Coyote in the passenger seat. Now I'd be chasing it with my Cobra, my Cobra. Johan Ogren, Sweden checking in. Mia's Tarot, what up, Steve? Fatty McButterpants, you can't see the forest for Lehto. Prodigal Stranger, the new mic sounds good. We're down a mic somehow. It improved things. Ryan Barrich, can you do a video about what RV we should buy? In the Venn diagram, it's called the empty set. The empty set. Look it up. Or you got to drop like $250,000 or more and get yourself a real nice one, like a Prevost. One that's got marble countertops and a shower you can stand up in. Otherwise, no. Johnny Knoxville, I'm trying to enjoy a lazy Sunday with a good amount of, how do you pronounce that? I recognize it as a food stuff. But if you can't pronounce it, does it taste good? It's not me 07's checking from Plano, Texas. John Byrne, love the vid. Steve. Yes, this is weird. There's actually a VU meter underneath the image here on the computer screen. and it's not moving. So either you guys are really good at lip reading, or you guys are just messing with me. Scotty, wish you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I thoroughly enjoyed your videos this year and look forward to next year. Oh, wait, I got to do this again next year? Plasma Wolf 55, thank you for all that you do. I'm a longtime viewer, and it's nice to hear your opinions on my long commute. Valerie Ann says she was traumatized because she's outside clearing the snow off of her Jeep, and she saw that it was getting late. She ran inside, and there's no Steve. It was traumatic. Michael Johnson's checking in from Westland. I got a very nice note from Michael in the mail, if that's who I think it is, saying that, among other things, he likes it when I announce and say, by the way, Michael is in Westland, and I know the area well. I got friends in the Westland area, which I like to say. Mr. X, can you change locks on squatters? Depends on the state you're in. Self-help is often fraught with peril. But I'll tell you right now, that's one area of the law where I'd be tempted to ignore my own advice and go self-help on somebody. Art S says, you guys are really good at rip leading, which is what I first said. Gene Montgomery says, have some boneless wings while driving the RV you bought from Hertz. Or I had somebody else say, too bad Hertz doesn't rent RVs. That would solve everything. QA Library, what's the best court win for the public this year and best story you reported on this year? You know, I'd have to take a look. I occasionally do a countdown of the top 10 videos in terms of how many views they got. And I can do that. I know we had some good wins. The Institute for Justice has had a couple really good wins, but a lot of what they're involved in is just a long fight. They got to just keep slogging away on. Jude Chase, what is snow? People in Florida want to know. Mark Miller, is it fraught with peril or rife with peril? My law school professor said fraught with peril. Fraught with peril. And it's a term of art. It's like font of knowledge. You don't often hear of other fonts other than, I mean, I'm talking about the F-O-U-N-T font. Is it O-U-N-T? I think it is. But anyways, it's pronounced font. So Captain Walt, will you be filming new Vin Wiki stories? Yes, I will be. I've got an appointment to be down there not so long from now, so I will be. Johnny Knoxville says you can fight fire with fire by squatting on the squatters. A guy in California who does that. And hey, if you can't kick them out, they can't kick you out either. Art S loved the barking at the moon video and people trying to sell you stuff unsolicited for the Explorer. So, by the way, in case, and some people don't know this, I have a second channel called Steve Lehto Second Channel. And on it, I post oddball videos that don't normally fit the main channel and some old stuff that I pulled down and I decided to put back up again. And it's got like 25,000 subscribers, something like that. But a lot of people don't know it exists because I don't really promote it that much. But I put up a video yesterday that got over 25,000 views, which means that it got more views and it got subscribers on that channel. So hang on a second. I'm looking something up here. This is how I do it when I gotta. Somebody said font spelled F-O-N-T, but I just looked it up. F-O-U-N-T is a fount of knowledge, but it often says font of knowledge. But at least that's the first two things I see saying font is spelled F-O-U-N-T when used as font of knowledge. Okay. Scott Summers likes the color of the cup. Yeah, I point out they make solos in a variety of colors in America. John Nowak is alive in Corpus Christi, Texas. Fat Blue, present, Professor. Thank you. I assume that's what you mean by that. Dan Boyd, have you purchased a new car recently? If you ask, you better be prepared to refinance me. Ultimus is the fondue of knowledge. The fondue of knowledge. And Jason points out that they ran tests and they determined that the Earth is in fact not flat. I hate to even talk about that. That's one of the things I mistakenly made. I did videos on that early in the channel, and you get people who are very, very invested in their opinions, and they don't really want to discuss that. So, Connor Thomas, what is in the cup? Today we have iced tea, believe it or not. I decided to go for a change of. Maybe that's what screwed up my microphone, is I brought up iced tea instead of Gatorade. Steve Styles in Soviet Russia, cups only come in one color. In my country. William Buckley likes the minimal outfitting of my studio, especially a simple and foldable wooden chair. Yeah, you're in a minority. Most people give me grief about my chairs to the point where we don't even talk about it anymore. Ghost wants to know, the Solo cup is blue throughout or just on the exterior? No, but it's blue on the inside. Do they make Solo cups that are white on the inside? MHOH says the Earth isn't an exact sphere either. Yeah, it's kind of pear-shaped, isn't it? It's getting old. Doesn't get the exercise it used to. Ryan Barrich, Long Island iced tea. It could be. I don't taste the alcohol. Christopher McCarron, what video from this year you did stands out the most to you? I'm not sure. I have to think about that. Adventures with Crit says, I love to say, what in God's green flat earth is going on? Rhea Hope. Hiya, everyone. Hiya, Rhea. Sub GR77 points out, while the earth may not be flat, birds are robots, because birds are not real. And if you don't know about that, look it up. Birds aren't real. Yeah, Tom Tuttle says it's an oblate spheroid. An oblate spheroid. Ember misses red ones. I've seen white on the inside of some. Yeah, I'm thinking about it going, I think I've seen it, but it probably has to do with how thick they are. But this is a legitimate Solo brand cup, I'm pretty sure, because Solo is based in Michigan. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. Irie said, is that a dead fly on the wall behind you? Which wall? I don't, unless you mean like right up here on right there. That's just a little knot in the wood. That's what you're looking at. I don't know. Miss Teresa, 1999, is checking in from Geneva, New York, where they've got a car show in the summer. I put it on my calendar. I have no idea if I can make it or not, but I did put it on my calendar, so we'll see. Johnny Knoxville, Gallagher, iced tea in the wintertime? Why not? Because it's effing dumb. Oregon expat says, hello from Germany. The font of knowledge is Helvetica. I thought it was Times New Roman. Mr. X, who is behind the woman's voice of the wisdom at the video end? Well, the voice is Heather, the Canadian robot lady, who's a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show. And occasionally she pops on these weekend shows, but she's had some issues that she had to take care of business-wise that kept her away. But she'll be back. But what she says, however, is a collection of stuff that I've sent her, that she's found on her own, or that viewers have sent in. So if you email me something and put Canadian robot saying in the subject line, if it's something I think is interesting, I'll forward it to her. She keeps a catalog and then she records them. I have several thousand of them now. So TikTok asks, oh, I'm sorry, Tick. You probably already had this, yet you're doing something on the DEA at the airport being shut down. I did a video on that a couple weeks ago. If you're talking about the DEA telling the people to back off because they were doing searches on the jetways at the airport, claiming they were voluntary. I did a video about 2 weeks ago on that. So that was a good move, but that's not good enough. We'd like to see them change the law because they could just change their mind tomorrow. In fact, they very well might. Jerry C., I suggest you never take your hot rods for service in Connecticut. Ghost, I'm confused. The earth is round. It's roundish. It's roundish. Yeah, no, I've mentioned before that I got both my vehicles, my nice ones, through Mark Lieberman, who runs a company called Nostalgic Motors, and Nostalgic Motoring. And he has mechanics on staff, and he's a mechanic, actually. And when I need work done on my vehicles like that, I take them to him. But luckily, I don't need work done like that very often. But he's one of the few people on earth where I toss him my keys and just know he's going to take care of it. So I don't care. But yeah, that's important. Joe Man G says, "Hey Steve, have a Bloody Mary on me. Merry Christmas." I was joking, my good friend JP. I'm not sure he's in the house today or not, but JP was talking about beer. He's a beer aficionado. He actually knows beer really well, brews his own, and he was talking to me about that. And I jokingly said, "Well, I had some beer in England." He goes, "How many?" I had 3 beers. I was there for a week and I had 3 beers. I'm not going to go into a pub and just sit there and hey, I'll take a Diet Coke, So I'll do that. Johnny Knoxville, is Gallagher still alive? I do not know. Somebody can look that up. I know he had a brother who was touring, and they had a little bit of an argument because the brother was kind of like ripping off his act, which is kind of sad. But what are you gonna do? Peter Mandix says our corporate font is Trebuchet. Is that a font, or I think that was what's the thing that flings something? Not a catapult, but the one that's got the thing on the end. Jay Klein, did you see the new rule in Ohio? The cops will be able to charge you $750 for time editing videos requested in FOIA. Yeah, I'm curious about that. That's probably going to get challenged, but the real issue is, FOIA exists because of laws being passed, so they can always amend the laws. And I know that many FOIAs say they can charge you a reasonable amount of money for copying things and making duplicates and so on. And so once in a while you hear a story like the one out of Michigan where some university said, "Yeah, we'll get you everything you want, but it's going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever." So Michael M. saw Gallagher back in the 80s. It was a fun show. Schnookism. Steve, in your video, court accidentally sends case proceeds to the wrong party. Officials treat money as if they are non-fungible. Oh, no, it's not that it's not fungible. It's just they don't think they're responsible for replacing it. They're like, the person who's got your money, they got your money. We don't. We don't have it anymore. Johnny Knoxville says Gallagher grew up in South Tampa, which is interesting because he loves South Tampa. Leon Sills says, "Hey, Steve, I had a similar incident with a tag here in New York State, but it was a tag from a moped that was ticketed on a Jeep, but the tag wasn't registered for 13 years. Yeah. Mr. X says a trebuchet is a type of catapult that uses a rotating arm with a sling attached to the tip to launch a projectile. Trebuchet. This is Art S. And of course, Randall Munson reminds us, as did several other people, of the sledge-o-matic, which was the thing that Gallagher did to disassemble watermelons on stage. It's not me 07 says, "I guess he didn't go to the pub with a group. I was walking in Cork, Ireland after dinner. Back to the hotel when I was abducted into a cool pub for 5 Guinness pints." Did they force you to have those, did they? Oh. Oregon expat says a trebuchet is the siege engine that uses a weight and gravity to throw. Yeah, and it's got the lever thing on the end so that when the arm of a catapult goes up, it does this. The trebuchet goes up like this, but then the other thing swings even more. So Johnny Knoxville says, Wiki says Gallagher went to Plant High School, famous high school because Tony Dungy's kids went there when he coached the Bucks, and Plant's a highly regarded school. That's cool. That's cool. Red Fox Mad says, "Merry Christmas, Steve. I hope you have an amazing Christmas." Thank you. It's not me says, "Yes, I was forced. That's what I told my boss on the expense report." It was a local tax. QA Library says, "I think back in the 90s, Hertz hired out RVs in Florida. I remember reading about it in their catalog of vehicles. Well, there are places that you can rent RVs. And I've told people, if you want to really get that out of your system, rent an RV. And a lot of dealerships take brand new RVs and rent them out. And then after they've been driven a few times, they sell them with a slightly reduced price. But I know people who've rented an RV and said, okay, I'm done. I'm done. William Buckley, Merry Christmas to all. Ciao. Mustang MG05, do you and your brothers take turns hosting Christmas? That's a good question. And the answer to it is not lately. And the reason is we basically have been going over my father's. My father is now in his 90s. And so we do that. And that way we all do the driving and he doesn't. But in the past, we've rotated throughout some of the holidays like that. It just depends on which holiday. There's a period of time where we literally did this every single time. And, you know, every 6th year I've got a host. Law-abiding Luigi says, top of the day to you. Always watch your videos. So entertaining. Great job and happy holidays to all. Doug Jones, I saw a video where they launched a small car. Yeah, if you can fit it in there, you can launch almost anything. Go says the word trebuchet makes me think of Alex Trebek. Maybe his ancestors had something in common with them. Jay Klein, I rented an RV once. I'll never own one. That's what people have told me after they've rented one. They're like, I rented one and I'll never own one. So you get it out of your system. It's like a boat. I've had relatives who had boats. I spend a week on their boat, not the full week, but I mean a week where I get to go on the boat a bunch of times. At the end of the week, they're like, are you going to buy your own boat? I mean, no, I got it on my system on yours. Photo guy, isn't it conversion if a court has money that is yours and then gives it away to someone else? Good question, because you're combining concepts from videos. But the real issue here is they'd say they did it accidentally. And the question then becomes, are they on the hook for accidentally getting rid of your money? Like, is it some form of negligence? It's not embezzlement because they didn't use it for their own purposes. But unfortunately, courts, being a government entity, are also insulated from some certain kinds of things. But I'll be fascinated to see what happens because the court, like I said, could very easily order the person to send the money back when they don't, hold them in contempt, and then go after the building. So that's what I do. Jason Brindamar, Steve, do you have any hobbies? I just started stained glass art, very relaxing. I've known people who do that. It's very, very cool. It's one of the lost arts. I've got my metal detector. Didn't get out use as much as I would have liked recently, but you can't in the wintertime. But I do a lot of metal detecting. I do also have a mountain bike, which I ride a lot when weather permits. In Michigan, you better have indoor hobbies. But as of right now, not really, no. Other than those ones. Lon Willis, season's greetings, Steve. I'm looking for names I don't recognize. Johnny Knoxville, flies, F's or floats. It's cheaper by the hour. We can fill in the blanks there. James Chamelik, does a dealership where you got your Viper know you're a lawyer? Didn't get it from a dealership. I bought it from my friend Mark Lieberman. Bought it through him. He bought it for me, actually. The dealership where I bought my most recent brand new car does know that. But you know, they're like, hey, you know, they want to sell a car too. Good citizens. Anybody remember Jenny's number? 867-5309. Don't forget, there's also Beechwood 45789 from a few years earlier. Just Jazzy. Hey, Steve, from Michigan here. Love your videos. First time catching live. You used the word Michigander, which I disagree with, but there's a big argument on that. Somebody sent me a note and said, Steve, check this out. A linguist has weighed in and says that Michigander is correct and Michiganian is wrong. And one of the reasons that she said that is she goes, there's no references to anybody using the phrase Michiganian. And I can do this now because I don't have headphones on. And my friend who sent me that link said, Steve, but you know, she's a linguist. I said, yeah, but she's obviously not a historian, because if she's a historian, she'd know that in Michigan history books, they refer to quite often as the original Michiganians. And the linguist said, it's never been used in print before. Uh-huh. Okay. Old Paint 71 says an internet famous yacht in Michigan named Change Order, and the dinghy hanging off the back is named Original Contract. David Hastings, Leo Gallagher passed away in 2022 in California. That one rings a bell. I thought it was fairly recent if it had happened. Bill Van Ram says, in middle school, my son made a trebuchet for a science project out of PVC. It would launch a golf ball at 60 miles per hour for about 50 feet. I know some engineers who got together and built one that would throw pumpkins, and it would throw them quite far. So, David G. Martinez, hi, Steve. Johnny Knoxville says, I'm a Wisconsinite by birth, but now a North Carolinian. And that's the question, is how you derive the demonym of somebody. Because if Michigander was correct, I guess people from Oregon would be Oregonders, to follow that through to its logical conclusion. C. Trotter, corruption in the justice system. Can you comment on that in general? Love listening to you. Well, I'm going to say something you're probably not going to like, but the corruption in the justice system, it's not as widespread as people want to believe it is. I know people who say things like, all lawyers are corrupt, all judges are corrupt, every court is corrupt. And in reality, every court case, almost every court case, has an unhappy party because they lost. And no one ever wants to think, I lost because I deserve to lose. It's, I lost because the system is corrupt. So, but you can also go, but Steve, you're a lawyer. Of course you'd say that. So, Jason Brindamauer says, born and raised as a Michigander. Well, the thing about it is that, you know, I know people who don't realize it was originally an insult. And it's kind of like if you heard that, you know, I don't know, the school mascot's the Knuckleheads, and you thought it was because of somebody like old Harley Davidson or something. And you find out, no, they just thought you people were stupid. Wouldn't you go, okay, let's change that? No, it's cute now. And Michigander was originally intended as an insult. It was insult. And the fact that people have used it for so long doesn't make it any less insulting. Situation Money. Do you wear your UFO concerts t-shirt from 1979 when you're driving your Viper? I'm not up on UFO. Is that a band? Back in 1979, I was listening to Gary Newman and Elvis Costello. Yeah, Johnny Knoxville says that Gallagher's wiki says a dispute with his brother was over the sledge-o-matic routine. It's kind of hard to say that, oh, gee, I'm just doing that. It's a coincidence, you know? David Dominic, if I were in the house, much easier that I'm a Londoner. David, of course, is the lead guitarist of Aussie Pink Floyd. And I went and saw them play several times recently when I was over in London. And as I like to tell people, he is the guitar player on the right. And hang on. I got it here. I got to make sure the sound is turned off. But there he is on stage, Royal Albert Hall. And that is the beginning of the song, Run Like Hell. And I always like the strobe effect there. So there you go. But thank you for checking in, my friend. David has a channel on YouTube. And he puts up videos about recording music and producing music and instruments, rock and roll, all that stuff. And I'm fascinated by this stuff because I understand it. I can watch it. I can hear it. But I watch people who do it, and to me, it's like magic. It's like alchemy. The fact that he can take a recording that's got 30 tracks on it, and go, oh, that I got to change the sound on that snare. Hang on, let me clean up that cymbal. Okay, hang on. It's a totally different thing very, very soon. So very, very cool. Doug Jones says in Canada, we are too polite. 90 Traces, ELO had a spaceship cover, as did Boston. And Boston, of course, is the upside down, the guitars going through space, which some people apparently didn't figure out. I've seen these things on YouTube and on Facebook. Did you know? Oh my gosh, that's a guitar. It's like that's what the guys are thinking the first time they're smoking a doobie, listening to the album for the first time. Like, dude, that's a guitar. And to suggest that no one figured that out till now is kind of late to the game. David Downey Fowler says, "Cheers, Steve. See you soon." And we will, my friend. David's band is basically touring constantly. He's on a little bit of a break right now, I think, but they'll be back in the U.S. And I've already got a couple dates on my calendar when Aussie Pink Floyd is passing through the area in May of this year. So Grand Rapids is one place and Windsor is another. Check out their website. STP World says, "I know you're a Simpsons fan. I found the Simpsons movie B-roll footage. It has all kinds of raw footage when they were making the movie. They should have put together a thing of bloopers, as if cartoons could have bloopers." I kind of stopped watching The Simpsons. It's not as good now as it used to be in its prime, but I liked the movie. I thought the movie did pretty well, considering a full-length thing like that doesn't always translate well from a cartoon. Hobbs Garage. Hi, Steve. I'm a big fan. Thank you. Valerian, didn't Styx have a spaceship cover as well? I know didn't they have a robot on a cover of one? I was never a big Styx in Kansas. Never did much for me. 90 Traces, the 70s were crazy, man. Sometimes I listen to myself. Asia had cool album covers. Didn't they have one about a dragon coming up out of the sea? Jerry Brown says, "Not all people from Hawaii are Hawaiian." Interesting point there, my friend. Zach, David, I used to live in Fowlerville, Michigan. Santa Claus is checking in from the North Pole, which I believe in the flat Earth model is actually the center of the Earth, right? Because it's a big disc. Antarctica is around the edge, so the North Pole would be in the middle, right? Driving New England says it was guitar with the Boston skyline in the dome. And New England, of course, is the name of a band produced by one of the guys from Kiss. And they had a song called Hello, Hello. Good song. That's not the one that got radio airplay, though. Johnny Knoxville says, "As we discussed before, We Built This City is rated the worst song of all time." And it's kind of funny because it got airplay. It was a hit, so it had to be liked by somebody. But it's one of those songs that you listen to the lyrics, doesn't make a lot of sense. You think about it, doesn't make a lot of sense. You listen to the song, it's kind of catchy. You understand how it got some airplay, but it's one of those things that just every time you heard it, it ground on your nerves a little bit more. So Steve Stiles says seasons 1 through 10 or so are the only Simpsons that exist. Yeah, the real gospel would be like seasons 4 through 12, I think. My favorite episodes are like Das Bus, the takeoff on Lord of the Flies. Also, Missionary Impossible, where Homer becomes a missionary. And a bunch of the Halloween episodes are great too. Santa Claus says the Simpsons were best when Conan was on the writing team. I'm not sure how long he was there for. That was a relatively short period. But NZ Kiwi NZ says we are New Zealanders or Kiwis, and of course that's a cool thing because you've got a mascot, Kiwis, as well as being New Zealanders. So for those who don't know, the Kiwi is a small flightless bird that lays an egg about the size of itself. It's one of those things. A small flightless bird. So Padre says Mickey by Tony Basil is the most annoying. It is right up there. Don't forget, she also had a song, the follow-up that was Shopping from A to Z. A, apple. B, banana. It was a fad. Let's put it that way. Dave Beto says, let's get the like count up. Where are we at right now? 183. And we're at 439 in the house, as they say. Valerie Ann says songs you learn to hate when working in clubs for $100. Okay, you understand that you phrased that as a statement, like a description for a Jeopardy category. When I was thinking, you were saying these are songs you learn to hate when you work in a club for $100 a song. Okay, now that would be an expensive club, but I think Johnny Knoxville knows what kind of club I'm talking about. But Grande Tacos' Radio Bart is the best episode of The Simpsons. That's a good one. That's a good one. But again, we're all entitled to our own opinions. So, John Noack says, what do you see if you look north at the North Pole? It's a mind bender there for you. STP World says there was a dispute when Conan left for Fox. I guess he was still under contract. But the question is what kind of contract, because a writing contract for a show might not have conflicted with him going to be a talk show host, but you never know. I also know Spike Ferriston for a while did a lot of writing for a lot of those comedy type shows, and I've seen him popping up lately because he just started a YouTube channel. He's got a podcast, and he started doing a YouTube channel. Southern Torrens says most annoying song to me is Roxanne. I can't stand that song. I like the Police. I saw them play once. I saw them live in Ann Arbor, and Joan Jett warmed up for them. But I find the do, the da, and also don't stand so close to me, just as annoying. So, but again, like I said, I really admire them. I do know that Elvis Costello did an interview back in the early 80s, and he goes, I don't mind the Police. I just wish Sting would stop using that fake Jamaican accent. Louis Browning doesn't like Afternoon Delight by the Starland Vocal Band. Come on! In fact, they did an episode of The Simpsons where they used that song as a joke. But Santa Claus says, I'm Mr. Plow. That's my name. That name again is Mr. Plow, which again, Skinner's Sense of Snow is the name of the episode that does a callback to the Mr. Plow because he's wearing the Mr. Plow coat while driving Ned Flanders' car as it rusts out as they drive to school to save the kids. And Nibbles is in the hamster ball. So there you go. Rob Wessel says you can't look north at the North Pole. Everything is south. In theory, yes. Grande Taco says I like only 2 songs by the Police. Padre, I hate the Police both figuratively and literally. But are we talking about the band or the people who wear the uniforms and the badges and the guns and all that? Valerie Ann says I nominate Gasolina and Baby Got Back. Baby Got Back is kind of funny. Well, it jumped. I mean, I saw things go like 3 different directions, and I lost my train of thought. If you look up Sir Mix-a-Lot, you can find him singing the song about I Like You Know What with an orchestra. And he invites women up on stage to dance, and it's actually charming in its own way. So Art Vandelay, Monorail was good. Also, when they had to go to Japan, Fishbulb. Yeah, yeah, exactly. The commercial for the detergent. I am disrespectful to dirt. Scott Summers, I thought Conan went to TBS. He did after he went to NBC. He went to NBC first, and then he went to TBS. There's several books written on that, believe it or not. Hold on. I saw Bob Blah Blah's in the house. Bob Blah Blah, do you think if the Tracy Ullman show didn't play The Simpsons, would we have The Simpsons today? It's hard to say because Matt Groening, who came up with it, came up with the little spliced Simpsons episodes between segments of the Tracy Ullman show. Don't forget, Tracy Ullman also had a top 40 hit in America called They Don't Know, I believe is what it's called. Came out in about 1983. But those shorts that Matt Groening did became The Simpsons. And Matt Groening had other success doing cartooning, so I suspect he had the idea is where he could have possibly launched it elsewhere. I don't know. Mark Miller says Skyrockets in Flight. Yeah, Afternoon Delight, the Starland vocal band. New text 94. Give me that ding. Southern Torrance says, don't stand so close to me. And of course, there's Every Breath You Take, which for some odd reason, couples will play as their wedding song. And it's kind of like, yeah, we'll stalk each other till the day we die. Bill Van Ram, if you had to choose one, which one? Gumball music, disco, or STD? Are you saying between diseases, dance music, or rock and like? So I like the bubblegum music that you're referring to. I like some of that stuff, the Archies and the cufflinks. Some of that's good. Carlos Ugarte says all reggae. Is that what you're saying? Is annoying reggae? I believe it or not, there's some reggae I like a lot. Obviously, Bob Marley is in a class by himself. Ellie Campbell from UB40 has done some solo stuff. He does a reggae version of Bob Dylan's "I Want You," which I actually will argue is the best rendition of that song. It's been covered by so many people, but his version is so good. It's amazing. Flaming Moe's, Sig 226. Daniel Kester says a weird thing about the bird. It lays an egg almost as big as the bird. Biggest egg to bird of all. I assume we're still talking about kiwis. MH08 muskrat love. Captain and Tennille. A lot of people don't know that the captain, Daryl Dragon, was an associate of the Beach Boys. And I believe he actually played in some studio renditions of their music. And so was involved with them on that. And of course, Tony Tennille was the captain, and Tennille. So there you go. Sometimes I listen to myself. Stuart Copeland's dad was a CIA operative, and he didn't know until he read his dad's book. And wasn't Stuart Copeland, wasn't his dad the one who started IRS Records that later became their record company and so on? Valerie answers, when the band you work for plays Baby Got Back every night, 4 or 5 nights a week, you learn to hate it. Oh, yeah, no. A lot of bands will do that. Imagine being a wedding DJ, and you've got to play these stupid songs. You got to play the Chicken Dance. You got to play Brick House. You got to play Celebrate by Kool and the Gang. These songs shouldn't get played anymore, ever, anywhere. Oh, I want to hear that at my wedding. Okay. Image Del Cray, Miles Copeland, his brother. Is that the brother of the father or the brother of the 93? When you're a DJ, what was the most interesting guest you interviewed? I didn't do interviews. I was literally a top 40 or oldies DJ playing music and just yakking away between songs. So QA Library, the chicken song. Look up Chicken Dance. It's a polka. It's a big thing in the Midwest. It destroys every wedding reception. Padre Disco Duck. Rick Dees and his band of idiots was a disc jockey at the time in Memphis and put out a disco song as a joke, and it became a #1 song in America. Hote Dog says, going after the chicken dance, you've gone too far. See, people who know. Oregon Expat can't touch this. Worse is the song Pray. 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 You got to pray just to make it today. And I remember when Casey Kasem did the top 40 countdown, they would have some of the dumbest trivia. And he'd come on and go, we have an interesting fact about this musician's song. We'll tell you right after. And he plays the song Pray by MC Hammer. And then he goes, that song has the title repeated like 328 times because he keeps saying pray, pray, pray. That's the most times any title is repeated in a song that's ever been in Casey Kasem stuff. Who cares? It's not that interesting. Jonas Bob York says today's word is transmogrify. I believe I've used transmogrify twice this week. And I purposely explained it in the second use where I said, kind of like in Kelvin and Hobbes, because Kelvin and Hobbes, Kelvin's a little kid, and he builds a transmogrifier, a machine that he can go into and change into something else. So, Daniel Kester, have you heard about the final experiment in Antarctica? Are we talking about the flat Earth, round Earth controversy? Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. James Chimellik, Adam Sandler's The Wedding Singer in 8 Crazy Nights. There are some songs don't get me wrong, I actually like Adam Sandler. He's done some extremely funny stuff. But that 8 Crazy Nights song, it's not even like a good novelty song. It's just like, I don't know, but they keep playing it. Dan Boyd, trans morgue fried what? Boneless chicken. JC Boom, the A&M fight song is acted out at some OG graduate weddings. There's also the alligator crocodile thing they do to the song Taking Care of Business. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. I was actually at a wedding reception about a year ago, and the DJ was really good. And I went over and was talking to the guy for a little bit, and I said, hey, I go, you can play the chicken dance? He goes, no, they told me not to. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I go, are you going to play Taking Care of Business? And he looked at me and he goes, yes. And he played it, and half the people hit the floor. So Jonas Bob York says, I mentioned that the first time in a comment. I like the word. Valerie Ann says, yeah, don't forget about the Macarena. Interestingly, that song, I mean, it's catchy, but it was popularized because there's a dance that went to it, and the dance became a fad. I remember hearing radio stations doing Macarena contests, going, hey, we're going to do a Macarena contest. And you're like, what? Okay. And they get people to show up at a bar for a Macarena. James Chmelik, I appreciate you getting my name right, and you don't add in or leave out letters. Paul Rohrbaugh says, not sure you already covered it, but I just emailed you a YouTube video about a retired lawyer who got the police called on him for returning a TV. I'd be interested in hearing your take. I'm not making this up. But I did, in fact, shoot that video, and it goes up. But I did, in fact, shoot that video, and it goes up tomorrow morning. So there you go. Just to prove to you I'm not making stuff up. By the way, I did get a note saying that while I was trying to figure out my technical issues, Mark Miller just told everyone he sent you a message to see if you're okay. Thank you. Madcat57 says Steve's hobby is making YouTube videos. In a roundabout way, it is. 90 Traces, were you a Viper fan when they were dominating GT racing in the late 90s, early 2000s? Yes and no. I mean, I followed a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of just road racing and things like that. But I can tell you that I went to a car show, and they brought in a Viper. I forgot what year it was, that had just won some big 24-hour race, and they brought it in unwashed. It was covered in everything that got stuck on it during the race. And it was hilarious. It was hilarious. Santiago Garcia says, there's a man on YouTube kind of like Casey is called the Professor of Rock. Yeah, the guy with the hat. I've seen him before. And he knows his stuff. STP World, did you know that Al Jean is from Farmington, Michigan? Yes, of course. And so is Pietola. Is it Pietola? There's another woman who's a producer on The Simpsons who's also from Michigan. Bonita Pietola. And Pietola is a Finnish name, so that's why I know that. Fred Hoyt, the electric slide. There was a really funny Onion headline where somebody from the East Coast got married to somebody on the West Coast, And due to the conflicting directions you go in the electric slide from those two coasts, there was a massive pileup on the dance floor. Oh, offensively normal says, by the way, Honda and Nissan have struck a deal that includes Mitsubishi. Wow. Jason Brindamar says, Sweet Caroline is written about a 9-year-old Caroline Kennedy. Pretty creepy if you think about it. Well, but you got to understand that when somebody's inspired to write something and they create something, whether it's a song or a painting or anything, if the song doesn't say, by the way, she's 9, you know, because there are other songs out there like that. Into the Night is a song I love. And I read an interview with the guy who wrote it, and he admitted that he was inspired to write it when he saw his friend's neighbor's babysitter who was 16. And people, oh my God, 16. And, you know, there have been lots of songs written about 16-year-olds because it rhymes. So, Mike Lackner, what would you drive in the Cannonball Run? Something nondescript. Those guys are smart. They don't drive a bright orange car. They'll drive something a little less attention grabbing. Kurt Van Leuven says the Baja 500 is the hardest race ever. It's right up there. Cool thing with the Baja is that you can still theoretically just enter it as an amateur. You might not finish. You ain't going to win, but you can enter. I toyed with the idea a while back about doing that, but realized, like many other things in my life that I thought would be fun to do because it'd be funny, I realized it'd be funny, but it'd probably cost me more than it'd be worth, and it wouldn't have as much fun as I'd like to think. So, oh, STP World says, I've talked to Al Genie. He's so nice. We maybe got his parents' hardware. They had one near my grandparents' house. Valerie Ann, our wedding song is Neil Young's Harvest Moon. Jim picked it. He loved that song. Great song. Lesser known song by Neil Young, but I've always loved that song. It's me again, Magnetic Connection, and Johnny BK20. Merry Christmas, Steve, and your friends and family. Best wishes for next year. Doug Jones, what does the Fox say? That was more of a big hit in Europe, wasn't it? Or was it also a hit over here? Codemeister beats Sylvia's Mother. That is a great song, okay? And I love that song. It's a Shel Silverstein written song. Dr. Hook, of course, had the hit with it. And it's based on a true story, in case you didn't know. It wasn't Sylvia's mother, Mrs. Avery, Sylvia's mother. Drawing a mental blank on the last name. But he actually did try to call up a woman, and the mom wouldn't let him talk to her. So he wrote the song, and it became a huge hit. So Christine 16 by Kiss. She's only 16 by Ringo. Christine 16 Kiss. Again, Mark Miller. Johnny Knoxville, Rockwell. Somebody's watching me. I remember that. That's a pretty cool song. One hit wonder. Is that like mid-80s? Mid-80s or so? That was a Motown song, I believe. Oh, I remember the woman's name, Sylvia. But anyways, Daniel Kester, no, Heather's not in today. Yavin Hatcharian, have you ever seen a jury nullification in person? What do you think the odds are that the jury nullifies Luigi Mangione of any crime? No, I've not seen it in person with my own eyes. They're very uncommon. And a lot of people are discussing that because it's a hypothetical possibility. However, I can tell you that most jury nullifications happen because people disagree with the law. So, you know, somebody gets arrested on a law that nobody likes. Jury comes back, goes, not guilty. And they're guilty, but the jury's going, no, they're not guilty because the law is stupid. Most people, when asked about whether or not the law that Mangione is charged with, does that law make sense? Oh, yeah, it does. It does. So I don't know about a jury nullification. Keep in mind that you can almost always find jurors who don't follow the news. We're going to go, we don't know who this guy is. And they're not going to let them introduce into evidence claim denials of third parties to explain why this guy acted the way he did. So that's another story altogether. But of course, that's my opinion. Power inherent in the people, I'm guessing, says, I love Carlton Reeves' opinion on qualified immunity. Do you feel it's hanging by a thread? I'm not familiar with Carlton Reeves' opinion on qualified immunity. By the way, Sylvia's mother's last name was Pandolfini, and so was Sylvia's last name, in case anybody's looking it up for me or not. I don't know, but it just popped into my head. But qualified immunity is the kind of thing that the court could say, gee, this is a court invention. We don't like this, because our current Supreme Court's done that recently, saying, hey, this previous ruling of ours is wrong, even though it wasn't their ruling, but the Supreme Court pretends it's an eternal body like that. Winger had a song about 17-year-olds, which is a year older than 16. David Peterson says Sylvia Avery. Yeah, it was Avery in the song, Pandolfini in real life. Betty Boop, are you buried under snow? No, we've got about an inch, 2 inches out there maybe. It's covering the ground, but it's not that deep. So, Padres is Michael Jackson sang with Rockwell on that song, but wanted to be uncredited. I recall that as well. It's kind of like Eddie Van Halen not asking to be paid for the guitar solo. Beat it. He probably should have, but he probably didn't care. Zach, Shel Silverstein also wrote A Boy Named Sue, and he also wrote the Unicorn Song. He wrote 3 one-hit wonders for 3 different people, or at least they were hits by other people. I don't know who he wrote them for, but. Sig226, Into the Night by Benny Mardones. Yes, that's the song I'm thinking of. Great, great song. But he mentions her being 16, and I saw a video on YouTube where some woman's like, oh my God, look how old the singer is. He's, well, number one, he wrote the song a while back. And number 2, calm down, okay? I don't even need to put anything out. Just calm down, okay? Fatty McButterpants saw Dr. Hook live, and it was the first band he ever saw live. That's pretty cool. By the way, I'm taking off my Breitling because I keep banging it on the desk. And last week when I showed it on camera, some guy goes, oh, that's a Rolex Daytona knockoff. And I didn't respond because I thought, oh, that doesn't sound right to me. And I looked it up, and the Daytona Rolex came out many years after the Breitling. You figure it out. So, Ravenite, hey, Steve. Hey, Ravenite. Dan Boyd, Burt Backrack. What about him? Great songwriter. Love a lot of his stuff. Sig226, Rick James also has a song called 17. Now, in Rick James's case, Richard Fairthorne says qualified immunity is bad. It starts with the presumption that an officer's innocent acceptance of very specific circumstances. Well, it's actually worse than that. It actually starts with the presumption that they're allowed to do certain things just because of who they are. And they can get away with things that they should know better about. And so, Dave Beto says when C.W. McCall released Convoy, Radio Shack ran out of handheld CBs in Canada. That CB craze, you don't understand what a craze that was. There's a period of time where like Johnny Carson would come out on the Tonight Show and do like 5 CB jokes in a row and then go talk to his first guest. And the first guest would be like C.W. McCall. That's all I talk about. James Chamellick, Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. There's an entire book written on that song, which I've read, and it is fabulous. The book is. And you don't understand. Leonard Cohen was a genius, and he's a songwriter and a poet. And he started singing, I think, kind of late in life because he started out as a poet, and then he started doing music. And he recorded the album that Hallelujah was on, and his record company said, we can't release that in America. It's not good enough. And his record guy actually told him to his face, Leonard, we know you're great. We just don't know if you're any good. His music was too good to be released to the common people. And the album got released in Europe. And when it leaked and seeped back into America, other people started doing it, like John Cale and a whole bunch of different people, Jeff Buckley, and of course it's been covered like thousands of times now. And the funny thing is that his record company didn't recognize that song for what it was. And now his version didn't become a hit, but his version is very, very good. So 69 Coronet 500 says, "Wake Up Little Susie" was probably pretty scandalous when it came out. What's funny is if you listen to songs from the 60s, I heard the song I Think We're Alone Now by Tommy James and the Shondells. I love that song. It was butchered by Tiffany a while back after that. But if you listen to the lyrics, they're so innocent, but they're hinting at stuff, but they're hinting at it just far enough away. So it's a fascinating study to see how they wrote songs back then. Dan Boyd says that a CB was required equipment in the mid to late 1970s for Wolf Creek. Listen to Bob Seger's Silver Bullet Greatest Hits last night. Bob Seger, you have to understand, I'm from Michigan. In Detroit, Bob Seger is huge. And in other parts of the country, he's not as well known. I mean, he had some big hits. But man, I mean, he would do things like sell out Pine Knob for like 10 nights in a row. That, a place that normally a band would play for like one night or two nights. So Jason Brindamauer, you mentioned that you lawyers would chat about the Coyote versus Acme case. What's your favorite argument for or against? In that case, believe it or not, it's almost entirely user error. I don't know that Acme actually made any guarantees of any sort, but you'd need to have some more facts there. Padre, a CB was no good without the bullhorn. You mean the public address? I've wanted to get a public address for my car or my truck, so when I'm in traffic, I can break it out and yell at people, but I don't know. Stephen Provost, have you ever represented somebody hurt at an amusement park? No, I have not. I don't do a lot of personal injury. I've done very, very few personal injury cases in my life. And I'm not even familiar with any cases that I've known about like that other than reading about it in the paper and so on. Doug Jones, favorite one-hit wonder. Oh, I know a whole bunch. Scott Summers says, I like Tiffany. Yeah, but listen to her version of I Think We're Alone Now and ask yourself what she did to that song to make it her own other than nothing. Jason Brindamar, I think I'm a clone now. Ravenite, I'm doing a doc on my uncle who was sued by Tommy James and John Lennon. Really? KWLDWD, the man, which version of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah do you think is best? I actually do like his version of it. And Jeff Buckley's version is good also. But there's actually a fascinating story to that song because Leonard Cohen had moved on to other things, and then somebody contacted him and said, "Hey, Leonard, there's a song that apparently you wrote. I'd like to do it live." And I believe it was John Cale who said that Leonard said, "Oh, I'll fax you the lyrics," and sent him like one story says 17 verses. And if you watch people sing it like on a contest show like American Idol, they'll sing like 3 verses. And the song changes meanings depending on which verses you use. And most people have only heard the 3 most common verses. Puddles Pity Party does a fabulous version of it also. Go onto YouTube, type in Puddles and Hallelujah. And somebody made a very short documentary about Puddles. He's putting on his makeup and he comes out and he performs Hallelujah. It's stellar. It's absolutely stellar. Valerie Ann, I love Tommy James. I Think We're Alone Now. It's one of the first 45s I played until I killed it. Yeah, I had their greatest hits, and I bought it back in the mid-'60s. No, I'm sorry. Early 70s. So, Steve, you're very knowledgeable. Have you ever tried out for Jeopardy? No, but when I lived in California, I sent in postcards and never got invited to try. They get sick of lawyers and law students, and probably medical students as well. Zach, I never understood Jethro Tull. I will admit that I was never a big fan either. There's a couple bands that came out in the 70s that were played on like the album rock stations that just never quite did it for me. And that's one of them. And, you know, talented musicians, don't they have a flute player? Soul Keith, Puddles. Yes, I've seen Puddles live. His show is astounding. They're amazing. Shane Souza, Leah, Donnie Iris. He had a couple other good songs too. Do You Compute? Another good song. Valerie Ann Sauceger and Bruce. Jerry Brown, Everybody Knows, is a great song. And again, that's a Leonard Cohen song. Concrete Blonde covered it. And the first version I ever heard was the Concrete Blonde version because it was a soundtrack to a movie. But I remember looking it up and seeing it was Leonard Cohen song and hearing his version. The lyrics to Everybody Knows are mind-blowing. You realize like why the guy's such a genius. Image Doe Crave, why do you use the term Miranda rights? There's no such thing. It's the Miranda warning. I'm not sure how often I talk about Miranda with respect to that, but the Miranda warning lists a bunch of rights that you are to be notified of. And calling it a warning implies that they're like tipping you off to something, whereas they're actually listing the rights that you have and putting you on notice of them. So I understand what you're saying, but you can't really say that there's no such thing and that you know that I'm wrong for saying that. In fact, just for the fun of it, I'm going to type in Miranda rights and get all kinds of things. So, and by the way, it does say you have the right to this and the right to that. So, I again, I get your point, but I think you're splitting hairs that are mighty fine. Vinny Sluga, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. My birthday next month, Steve Lehto. Okay. JR Nana Boomer, sending love and light to all. 70s music are my jams. Grammar ain't. Dragon's Breath. My first concert was Rush at the Joe Louis Arena in 1985. My first concert would have been a Beach Boys concert at Pine Knob in the late 70s. I saw a lot of good shows at Joe Louis and Cobo Hall, which was right next door to it. So NNA Cheese says Harper Valley PTA is a great song. That's one of those songs. It was a big hit. It tells a little story. So Jason Brindamar, I had a long-term girlfriend who I wanted to ask to marry me on a trip up north. She didn't like me playing Bob Seger on the road trip. We're no longer together. Did she leave you because of the Bob Seger, or did you cut her loose because you realized that you two are unequally yoked when it came to music? Oregon expats says, don't sell Jethro Tull short. Locomotive Breath is a damning narrative of chasing a career instead of film. No, here's the thing. A lot of music has got a great message to it, but I still need the music to do something that I can't quite describe. It's something magical. And if a song doesn't appeal to me, I've had people go, Steve, listen to the lyrics. Okay, I'll listen to the lyrics, great, but I can't listen to them without the music being there. And so if it doesn't do it, it just doesn't do it. Sig226, Ode to Billy Joe by Bobby Gentry. Zach, artist different interpretations. Chris Cornell does an awesome version of Nothing Compares to You. I remember when Sinead O'Connor put that out, and I mean they didn't know what to do with that song. It was being played on all kinds of different stations. I remember rock and roll stations were playing it. It's like, what? Bob Blah Blah says there's a huge difference between your last warning and your last rites. Although you spelled rights wrong. If you're referring to the rights you get by the priest, it's R-I-T-E-S. But that's okay. That's okay. Party Hut NL, hi, just joined. What are the recent topics? It's hard to say. Silver Mountain killing me softly with his song. Roberta Flack, I love that song. It's also in, I'm sorry, I'm thinking First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. Never mind. Play Misty for me with with Clint Eastwood. Rick Oliver, first concert, 1974, Mott the Hoople. Queen was supposed to open for them, but canceled because of illness and got REO Speedwagon instead. That's a funny story because I'm going to tell you right now, in 1979, I went to a concert in Pine Knob where REO Speedwagon was a headliner and John Cougar was going to warm up for them. And they came out and said, due to circumstances beyond our control, John Cougar will not be here tonight. REO will just simply come out early. And people started throwing stuff. Oh, boy. Jerry Brown, The Hook will bring you back. Blues Traveler. I've seen them live also. Amazing, amazing show. J.R. Nana Boomer says lyrics that music is just a poem. And again, some lyrics are that good that they can be read as just a poem. And you're like, wow, that's good stuff. So Cal Maurice says, I saw Beach Boys at the Pine Knob, but it was in the 80s. I've seen them several times. I saw them probably like 77, 78. Probably some of the last time in the early 80s, 81, 82. So Redneck Coder says, and to think Prince wrote Nothing Compares to You. Yeah, I had never heard his version of it. Did he do a version of it? I'm assuming he did, but so. Ravenite says, I saw Rush with Triumph, great Canadian bands. Triumph warmed up for Van Halen once at Cobo Hall, and I saw them there at that show. Dan Boyd, you don't want to be Mirandized by a priest. Can you imagine if your name got turned into a verb? So. Mr. Art Vandalay says, I saw Bette Midler at Pine Knob. At the end of the show, she came out, wrapped in a towel, and dropped it to the stage and ran off. That was apparently a thing for her. I heard several people who saw her at Pine Knob and other places where she did that. And it was just a little gag she did at the end of the show, apparently to get you to stick around. Prodigal Stranger, first concert, George Thorogood, The Destroyers, opened for ZZ Top at Madison Square Garden. That'd be a good show. Sig226, The Mountain Wins Again. Great Blues Traveler song. Yeah, John Popper is a brilliant guy. And I may have told the story before, and I'll tell you again, because he's the one who, they had the song Runaround, which is a huge radio airplay song. It got played everywhere to death. And I saw him on a talk show once. Somebody goes, what do you think about the fact that you've got this one song and everybody wants to hear this one song? Do you ever get sick of playing it? You ever stop playing it? And the guy goes, no. He goes, people want to hear a song. The only reason we're on stage and they're in the audience, they want to hear us do this song along with our other stuff. So of course we're going to do it. And I've been to see so many shows where bands didn't play their hits. And I'm like, why am I here? You're just up on stage just playing your favorite songs? Like, what's wrong with you? So David Beeler saw Pink Floyd at Shea Stadium, was too high to remember much. But was it a good show? If you think back, was it a good time? David Burris, the first two rock concerts went to were in Atlanta, 79. Billy Joel toured for Glass Houses and Styx for Cornerstone. And one of the best concerts was Bob Seger in 83. I've never seen Bob Seger live. I've heard he does an amazing, or at least he used to do an amazing, amazing show. And he's one of those guys who really appreciated his audiences and treated them with respect. And I've heard so many stories about some rock stars who are like, come out and do a short show and skip the songs you don't want to play, and there you go. Low Face, I saw the Beach Boys mid-2000s in Castlebar, County Mayo, Ireland. Obviously not the full original lineup. Yeah, and a few of them are gone now. I did see their original lineup with Brian Wilson. He toured with them. I'm guessing, I'd have to look it up, 79, 80. He was on one tour with them. And actually, I saw all of them. And he was at that one show, that one tour. Cal Maria took my son to his first concert. Fog Hat. Oh boy. M3, your opinion, Camaro versus Charger. Well, I'm a Mopar guy when it comes to the street car from the 60s and 70s. So I do like the Chargers. But hey, I love all cars. Redneck Coder Gordon Lightfoot, loved his music, hated his show. Never saw him live, so can't really say. Dimebag Coin saw the Kinks' first concert. Yeah, did a bunch of really good stuff. Newey Wiener, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon tour, Olympia Stadium in Detroit. That would have been really cool. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know why nobody ever mentions the greats like Barry Manilow, Neil Diamond, or Barbra Streisand. The funny part is Barry Manilow just announced he's coming to Michigan, I think at Little Caesars Arena. And I believe the ticket sales are going to do pretty well. He had a pretty big following. Neil Diamond should also do well if he tours. But Barbra Streisand, I never understood that. I know a guy who's a bit older than myself who went and saw Barbra Streisand in the early 90s. And I'm like, why? He's like, oh my God. He starts rattling off everything she's done. But I always think of Barbra Streisand more for like movies and stuff. But apparently, so. Bill says Blues Traveler occasionally performs The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I'd love to see that. Lewis Browning. Bob Seger opened in Cleveland and everybody from Michigan got up and left after he played. I love who he's warming up for. I've joked before about this. Bob Seger is not a regional hit guy. I mean, people in other parts of the country know who he is. But there are these guys like Michael Stanley out of Cleveland, who outside of Cleveland, nobody really knew who he was. And he had one or two minor radio airplay hits elsewhere around the country. But the guy was amazing. But he never got airplay outside of that area where he's from. And he passed away a couple of years ago. It's very, very sad because I also read recently that Southside Johnny just retired. And Southside Johnny is huge in New Jersey. And outside of the area, not so much, despite the fact he's good friends with Bruce Springsteen. And you can find video of Bruce Springsteen on stage going, hey, let's bring out Southside Johnny. And Southside Johnny comes out and they play together. And it's just, I always was upset by that there's these little regional stars that don't ever get out of their area. And it's very, very sad. Tim Noel saw the Beach Boys in San Diego, early 90s. And that jumped on me again. Doug Jones, the Monkees, did they sing or not? Oh, they sang. The question is whether they played their instruments or not. And back then, that was a big, big deal. They got a lot of flack from people who said, "Oh, they're not playing their own instruments." Eventually, they learned to play the instruments. But Davy Jones had been a singer prior to that. Mike Nesmith could play the guitar, but I don't think the other two guys, Peter or Mickey, could actually do much when they were hired. They were hired more because they could goof off on camera. But I like the Monkees, and they had a bunch of really good songs because they were written for them. So Sig226 loves the Carpenters, as do I. Their version of Superstar is so good that I don't care what you have to say about the rest of their music. Oh, it's wonderful. Absolutely. D. Wood saw Ted Nugent and the Babies around 1979 at Bay City Central High School Stadium. It's like Atwood Stadium in Flint. It's actually like just a glorified high school stadium. And Ted Nugent, of course, is huge in Michigan. He's had some national recognition, but nothing compared to what he has in Michigan. And the Babies, of course, were a pretty big deal back around 79, 80. I saw Ted Nugent play his Whiplash Bash New Year's Eve show at Cobo Hall in, I believe, 1989 or 1990. I could be wrong. One of the loudest things I've ever been near. It's like Ted Nugent just literally like, let's just stack Marshall amplifiers and just turn everything up to 12 and see if we don't blow out some of the circuits down there at the power plant. Unbelievable. And Hot Dog points out that mainstream bands that use the Wrecking Crew instead of playing live or instead of playing on the records got no flack. Well, and that's the whole thing is like, so for instance, the Beach Boys music, most of their stuff in the 60s wasn't them playing on the records other than Brian Wilson producing it, but they'd bring in all these extremely talented musicians and they'd play it. Carole Kane played the bass on almost all those songs. And then they would learn to play them well enough they go out on tour and play along with themselves. But most people are listening to the voices. And the Beach Boys could sing. They could sing. But yeah, so it was kind of sad because it got, it's the point now where your ticket will actually say that the band can come out and lip sync if they want. And there are bands out there that lip sync because they're so busy dancing and running around and stuff, they couldn't possibly sing. But anyway, the times have changed. Times have changed. So Jimmer SD, the Romantics were the loudest band I ever heard. I had to go out the parking lot. Where were you seeing them? Someplace small? The Romantics were from Detroit. They actually had a song on one of the W4 Homegrown albums when they were still amateur. And then they signed a record deal and they put out a bunch of songs and a couple of them did really well. And then, of course, the song Talking in Your Sleep came out, which was just insane. Got airplay everywhere. And they went from being like a warm-up band at a bar to playing big venues. And I remember I knew people who knew people in the band. And it was like, oh my God, the Romantics are going to play a bar tonight. We're all going to go see this surprise pop-up show. And but yeah, the Romantics. They were supposed to be at the Totally Tubular Festival I saw this past year at Meadowbrook, but they got scratched sometime between when I bought the tickets. There was still like 7 other acts that were there, but they were not there. Rick Oliver says, Ted Nugent removed my hearing for life in 77, standing at front of the crowd. I'm not making this up. I was as far back at Cobo Hall as you could be. The wall was behind me. It hurt. I could feel the sound. It was loud. Sig226, Carole King is another guilty pleasure. Another wonderful singer. Absolutely. In fact, don't forget that her album Tapestry was on the top 200 charts for like ever. Her and Pink Floyd are the 2 albums that just sold year after year after year. Jimmer says it was a small venue called The Joint in the Woods in Orlando, Florida. Mark Heil, I saw Ted Nugent at Santa Monica Civic, and Guns N' Roses opened for them and got booed off the stage. It's only funny is Guns N' Roses was kind of hit or miss. I remember I worked at radio when they were huge, so I had to play all their music. I worked at a station where we got a copy of their Knocking on Heaven's Door bootleg and played it every hour on the hour until we got served with a cease and desist because it wasn't released yet. And so I remember when there was a big fight between Duran Duran and Guns N' Roses as to who sold more T-shirts to teenage girls. And so I've seen live footage of Guns N' Roses, and let's just say they're not as polished as they would be otherwise, especially I think if Axl's been, whatever it is that he does for entertainment when he's not playing music, referring to ingestion of things. So, Zach, I blew my eardrums out at a Kenny G concert. How? Steve G, the Tubes. Okay. Right now, people are actually going to Tubes. And Steve G's thinking, wait, Steve knows who the Tubes are? Of course I do. Talk to you later. That was a huge, huge song, a huge radio airplay song. And when that song hit, A friend of mine, Tom, good friend of mine, was at the University of Michigan going to school, and they announced the Tubes show, and he just happened to be near the box office, and he got us tickets, and we sat in like the third or fourth row to see the Tubes in Ann Arbor. They're one of those groups. It's just so unusual, but they had that one hit. If you hear the song, Talk to You Later, you go, oh, that's a great song. But the rest of their music didn't quite ever catch on. So I don't really know, but it was amazing. Mike Lackner, who would you want to play at your funeral? I think you should play Ozzy Osbourne's See You on the Other Side. Hey, Mustang MGO5 says the Lions for beating the Bears 34-17 in the third. I forgot there's a game on. Zach, have you ever seen the Trans-Siberian Orchestra? Yes, I got asked that earlier this week. I saw them, and I was impressed. I didn't know much about them, and somebody said you should really go see them, and so went and saw them last year. And if you don't know, the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is this, I hate to call it a band because it's a whole performance they do. But a guy who used to put together stadium tours for big groups like Queen came up with this idea about putting together a stadium group that would play holiday music, and it would be all themed. And he went out and hired the best musicians that you could get. And among other things, they have never warmed up for anybody, and they don't have a warm-up group. They just come out and do their show, and they sell out stadiums. It's amazing what they do, and the music is really, really good. I was blown away. It's so hard to describe what they do, but check them out if you get a chance. Shane Weaver's best loud concert is Grand Funk Railroad. They actually were quite loud. They're the pride and joy of Flint, Michigan. And Jerry Brown says, I enjoy Talking Heads. So do I. Speaking in Tongues is one of the greatest albums of all time. And Stop Making Sense is possibly the greatest concert film of all time. If you watch that concert film from beginning to end, all the work that went into it, how it plays out, it's startling. It's so good. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch it, and then we'll discuss that next week. Ember Miss 69 says Guns N' Roses could have saved the day with the whole Montreal fiasco. And talking about 92, Metallica, Mr. Hetfield going to the hospital for burns to his hand. I seem to recall some of that, not enough where I can go into it heavily, but I remember people were saying that they were a little embarrassed about how Guns N' Roses behaved that day. Ravenite, She's a Beauty, another song by the Tubes that did get airplay. MHO, if you can't play good, play loud. Chuck Whitehead's checking in from Jonesboro, Tennessee, checking in late, but that's okay. Shane Souza, Talking Heads, and the B-52s. I will admit I was not a big B-52s fan, but later on I came to appreciate a couple of their songs. Heavy Equipment, I like that one song. We're learning to print. And of course, Give Me Back My Man. I'll give you fish. I'll give you candy. I'll give you everything I have in my hand. The lyrics aren't as deep and meaningful, but the song is good. Wildly 99 says the Tubes played on SCTV. Doesn't surprise me. Jerry Brown says Professor Lehto is giving homework. It's extra credit. It's not required. It's extra credit. Valerie Ann, my funeral song is Ripple. If you haven't seen the movie High Fidelity with John Cusack, he plays a music nerd. It's a great movie based on a Nick Hornby novel. Great movie. And in it, they discuss what they want their funerals to be like. And I believe John Cusack says that he wants a woman singing at his funeral and crying. And he named some soul song, but I forgot what it was. But Valerie Ann says more cowbell. Well, you can always use more cowbell. Always. 90 Trace, Red Hot Chili Peppers excelled at nonsensical lyrics. But go online, look up YouTube's. They got a video of Red Hot Chili Peppers performing Brandy, the Looking Glass song. And it's amazing because it's just 3 instruments and a guy singing. And it sounds so good. Those guys are all amazingly talented. But yeah, are some of the lyrics nonsensical? Sure. Did they encourage people to light things on fire at the Woodstock? Yeah. Joe Paquette says high fidelity is awesome. Thank you. Old man butt wrinkles, first grade. My older brother took me and my sister to see Bay City Rollers. I'm jealous. I'm absolutely jealous. I kid you not. I love the Bay City Rollers. I love them. I believe the lead singer passed away recently. And there's a whole bunch of stories about that band, but they were huge, but just bubblegum music, late 70s. The Way I Feel Tonight, wonderful song. And they were huge. So I like them a lot. Dimebag Coins, I'll be singing Talk to You Later at karaoke tonight and record it for my channel. Send me a link. I'll check it out. Padre, my mother banned me from watching SNL because of Devo. And the funny thing is, they came out, and I think they did, was it Coal Mine and Satisfaction? I know they did Satisfaction. And I remember watching that going, oh my God. My mind was blown when Devo did Satisfaction. And now I'll admit their music is odd. Some of it's odd. Whip It off a later album was bigger, but their version of Satisfaction was so mind-bending. But I can picture someone's mother going, okay, enough of that. Shut that thing off. So 69 Cornet 500 is why 11, because 11 is louder than 10. Well, that's why I said Ted Nugent must have said his stuff to 12, because I'm assuming that's even louder. Yeah, Zach says, what about Tiny Tim's with Tiptoe Through the Tulips? And saw him on Howard Stern. And Tiny Tim appeared on there a couple times. And people forget that Tiny Tim was actually like a cultural phenomenon also. He got married on like The Tonight Show. I mean, it's that big of a deal. T. Hong says, my wife loves the Bay City Rollers. I just don't get it. You don't have to. Okay? It's like somebody else going, hey, Jethro Tull, Locomotive Breath. It doesn't do it for me. That's whatever. It's, I came to the conclusion that there's really no such thing as bad music. There's just music you don't like. But if someone else likes it, there you go. And Burning Sensations just checked in. I have to mention that there was a band called the Burning Sensations with the song Belly of the Whale, which you have to listen to if you haven't heard it yet. It's a great song. Jerry Brown says the Immigrant Song is a great funeral song. Yeah, I've never heard Zeppelin played at a funeral. But I think as generations get up there, maybe they will. David Burris says Stephen Van Zandt played Tony Soprano's right-hand man, Silvio. He was a member of the E Street Band and a founding member of Southside Johnny and Asbury Jukes. And that whole community there, these guys all knew each other. They supported each other. And that's something I knew too as well. Tiny Tim was on Laughing. Shane Souza says the Bay City Rollers is probably just the time as wife having good memories. Oh, that's probably true too. I mean, because I remember when the Bay City Rollers came out, I was at the age where that thing, that kind of music would appeal to me. But I still like them. I still like the music. Southern Torrance says, I hope my funeral soundtrack will be Time Warp from Rocky Horror and then Weird Al songs. Don't forget when there's a song by a group called the Floaters, and the song was called Float On, and somebody put out a song and they called themselves the Bloaters, and the song was Bloat On. Image Joe Craig, yes, Tiny Tim married Miss Vicky on The Tonight Show. Santiago Garcia, have you ever heard of the Blind Boys of Alabama? They perform spiritual songs to rock music. I've heard of them. Not sure if I've ever heard of it, though. I'm not really sure. Len Witt played Margaritaville at my dad's funeral. Was he a big Buffett fan? That's cool. Daniel Kester, 2 songs I was not allowed to listen to, American Pie and Harper Valley PTA. Dimebag Coins, my friend's funeral was all Rush songs. Valerie Ann used to watch Southside practice at the Stone Pony on summer vacations. Yeah, and so Stone Pony is apparently a club where a lot of those guys played back then. Old Man Butt Wrinkles, I feel the Cars were underrated. As a band, I'm assuming we're talking about the Cars because you capitalized it. No, I mean, they were huge. They were huge. I remember seeing them. I think it was on Fridays. They appeared, the first time I saw them in the late 70s. But they had a run there where they sold a ton of music. So C513B2 Z9, do you have a favorite music video? You have to narrow it a little bit more, and I got a lot of favorite music videos. Kevin Smith is Tiny Tim Weird Al's twin. DT254. My name is Dante. Hey Steve, ready for Christmas? As I'll ever be. 90 Traces, American Pie, deep lyrics. You know, I was never a big fan of that song. I know that's sacrilege to say, and I understand the lyrics and all that stuff, but I just, to me, it just kind of, I drove my Chevy to the levee. I mean, it just seemed like he wasn't working too hard at some of that. So, Mark Miller, do you know any Billy Thorpe? No, I do not. Bernadine Sackinger, I hate the final countdown. If you go to a hockey game, you're going to hear that like 12 times. The Prodigal Stranger, Steve wants Tapau to play at his funeral. And I could probably make that happen. Sig226, the song Blinded by the Light, made famous by Man for Man, is actually Bruce Springsteen's song from his first album. Greetings from Asbury Park. Likewise, Bruce Springsteen's song, I Came for You, another song also covered by Manfred Mann. And Bruce Springsteen's version of that is fabulous. Fabulous. Feral Kitty says, my best friend wasn't allowed to listen to AC/DC because of the dirty deeds done dirt cheap. I worked at a radio station answering phones as an intern for a couple hours a day, a couple days a week, WABX. And all that happened all day long was 10 and 11-year-old boys calling up, can you play AC/DC? Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. And it got to the point where we'd write AC/DC, DDC. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. And it's annoying because we play it once every 3 hours. But what are you going to do? Alexander Clifton, what is your favorite hip hop song? I don't know of any hip hop songs, but I can tell you that I love the band NWA. I had the NWA tape, I think, before they had a record deal. Guy sitting next to him in law school came in one day, goes, Steve, here you go. I go, what's this? He goes, it's a tape by a band called NWA. I go, what is it? He goes, it's rap. I go, he goes, no, trust me, you'll like it. Chuck Puck, have you ever been involved in any music-related cases? No, I have not. I have not. Several people. Dirty deeds done with sheep. Oh, Dimebag Coin says over 100 songs already in the playlist. I have 1,000 subs, but need watch time and invite critiques. All songs, no edits, one take. Johnny Knoxville says the Cars' Rick Ocasek won the wife lottery by marrying swimsuit model Paulina Portskova. You might think was on MTV every day. Sad part is that apparently they had a falling out. I've seen pictures of her lately. She's still a good-looking woman, but apparently they had some issues later on. So, Two Left Thumb says the teacher said you'd be late for your own funeral. And then asked, why are you burying me if I'm not there? And James Chimelix says, behold, I have returned. Old Man Butt Wrinkles says, who did Ballroom Blitz? Sweet. I mean, who did Ballroom Blitz? Sweet is amazing. Love is like oxygen. Teenage Rampage did not get any airplay in America, but it's huge over there. Joe at Underground. I saw Foreigner in Marquette. Marquette where? And the Cars with Nick Gilder, Hot Child in the City. Bam! Yeah, sweet did Ballroom Blitz. Johnny Knoxville confirms. Sig226, Rod Stewart was married to Rachel Hunter for a while. Yeah, turns out if you're a rock and roll star, you can land yourself a supermodel or two. So there you go. Anyway, I'm glad the experiment worked. I hope to have all my technical issues resolved by next week. Good thing that my camera and stuff over here still works. I will talk to you guys next week. Until then, have a great holiday, whichever one you observe. If you don't observe a holiday, just have a great week. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.